What's up, everyone? Welcome back to King Anime Review. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about Naruto versus One Piece. Now, I'm going to add this little bonus clip to the video because I forgot to talk about this in the actual video. But also, one other thing I want to say is this is going to be a long video, about almost an hour long. Now, you guys, I'm pretty sure a lot of you watch podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure if you guys really want a very in-depth, detailed analysis on these two series and why I think one is better than the other, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to want to hear all these points in detail, so you guys shouldn't have a problem with it. You know, maybe watch this when you have free time, but yeah, it's going to be about an hour long. One quick thing I forgot to mention in the video, however, is the fact that Ichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece, admitted to copying Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, in certain aspects. He actually admitted this. He said this in an interview himself. I'm going to have the picture of the Japanese interview that in which he said this, as well as the translation for it. He said this himself in its official translation. Crunchyroll themselves even have a video acknowledging this. Now, also, I want you guys to watch. I'm gonna have a link in the description to the video that I'll reference in this video, where I'm talking about the popularity between both series. Because I know One Piece fans, they love bringing up popularity as like an argument to prove that One Piece is better. I have a whole video dedicated to where I'm talking about the popularity of each of these series. So click the link in the description if you want to be more informed on that, because, and first of all, that's not a proper argument. I just, if anybody who's gonna attempt to use that argument, click the link in the description to the video. It's a much shorter video. I believe it's about 15 minutes long where I talk about that. Now, getting back to the Oda and Kishimoto thing, somebody's probably gonna bring up a counter argument. How did they're probably gonna bring up the question, how did Oda copy Kishimoto when One Piece came out first? Oda himself admitted and blatantly said that he was reading Naruto while he's working on One Piece. As far as he even has a favorite Naruto character. Point is, Oda is a fan of Naruto. And one last thing I want to state. And yes, the same is true the other way around. Kishimoto is a fan of Oda and a fan of One Piece, but unlike Oda, Kishimoto never admitted to copying off of Naruto. I mean, to copying off of any series. Kishimoto never blatantly said, I copy ideas or I copy things from different series. He never said that. Oda himself blatantly said, I copied certain things for Kishimoto, and he apologized. He even apologized. I'm pretty sure that he said, I'm sorry for copying certain things from you. I think he apologized. I might be wrong about the apology, but like I said, I'm going to have the picture on the screen. But Oda has actually said that he copied Kishimoto. Kishimoto has never said he copied any other author or any other series. Oda admitted to copying off of Kishimoto. Now, if you guys are going to try to use the Dragon Ball or try to compare Naruto to other series and say, hey, guess what? Naruto copied off of Hunter x Hunter or Naruto copied off of Dragon Ball. No, he didn't. Kishimoto, I mean, that's your own perception. If you think that's the case, then that's you. But Kishimoto, unlike Oda, has never admitted to copying off of another series. Yes, he has admitted to being influenced and inspired by certain series, but he's never admitted to copying off a certain series. Now, being influenced and inspired by something is way different than copying. Copying means you actually copied someone else's work. Being inspired and influenced is just being inspired and influenced. It means like somebody kind of motivated you to in certain aspects when it comes to you creating your story, and you implement certain things that you like about that story into your own story, but put your own spin to it. Copying is actually just copying, like actually taking an idea and putting it into your own series. Now, anyways, I just want to make that clear. And yeah, Oda admitted to copying Kishimoto, and the same is not true the other way around. And Kishimoto has never admitted to copying any other manga or any other story in general. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. Enjoy the video, and yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to King Anime Review. And for this video, I will be comparing and talking about what's better between One Piece and Naruto from a storytelling quality point of view. For any of you who are going to bring up manga sales and try to use that as your argument, just go back and watch my video where I made talking about why One Piece is not the most popular manga, because I provided factual evidence in that video. But just to briefly go over that stuff, One Piece only outsold Naruto for the most part in Japan. The majority of the countries around the world, Naruto outsold One Piece, and One Piece outsold Naruto in Japan. The reason why One Piece has more manga sales is because manga sells way better in Japan than it does outside of Japan, due to various reasons, and those are all facts. But like I said, Naruto has sold more in more countries than One Piece, meaning worldwide, Naruto is more popular than One Piece. Also, something I didn't talk about in that video, that I'll just show you guys in this video. in terms of worldwide popularity over the past 15 years, via Google searches, and you can check this yourself on Google Trends, it shows that Naruto is the most popular anime worldwide, and it's drastically more popular than One Piece and even Dragon Ball worldwide over the past 15 years. However, since it ended in 2016, 2014, the manga ended in 2014. The sales started to decline since then. But at Naruto's peak worldwide is way higher than One Piece's worldwide peak via Google Trends. And it also, like I said, over the past 15 years, it's dominated. It's been the most popular manga slash anime worldwide, beating One Piece in every single country in terms of Google Trends over the past 15 years, aside from like Japan and a couple other countries, like 2 or 3. And also, even in Japan, back in 2004, Naruto actually was out doing better in terms of Google Trends than One Piece. For those of you who want to say, well, One Piece has always been more popular in Japan, maybe in terms of manga sales, but in terms of actual popularity, like Google Trends and stuff like that, and the anime, Naruto actually was doing better than One Piece at one point. Now, anyways, now that we got all of that stuff out of the way, for anybody who still want to bring up popularity, go watch that video that I just told you about. But anyways, let's talk about the quality. First off, let's start off with, these are going to be different categories. So, the most important categories, the characters slash character development slash characterization, but characters overall, world building, emotion, and comedy is going to be one of them, romance, pacing, art. So that's 7. And by the way, I didn't write down the list or anything. I'm just going strictly off the top of my head. But yeah, that sounds about right. If there's something else I need to add, I'll add it later on. Now, let's start off with, in my opinion, the most important category, characters. Because guess what? You can't have a story without characters. You can't have a story take place in like one setting, one location. That has been done before plenty of times, and not always, but it works out it works out good enough, and in a lot of instances. But it's literally impossible to have a story without the characters. You need some type of character, whether it's a character that's non-human or what. You need some type of a character. You need a main character to have a story. You can't have a story just take place. You can't have a story without no characters. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't work. And the reason I say that is just to prove why characters is more important than the actual world. Because a lot of One Piece fans bring up world building as a way to say One Piece is better than Naruto. That's really ridiculous. And I kid you not. I've literally heard people say that the reason One Piece is better than Naruto is because of world building. So they act like world building is the most important thing. It's nowhere near as important or crucial to a story than the characters. Now, anyways, let's start off with the main characters, since they are the most important characters, the characters that are the most focused on. Let's start off with One Piece. Luffy. And in my opinion, and I'm taking my opinion out of this, by the way, I'm going to try to be as non-biased as possible. But for those of you who think I'm going to be biased, I actually don't really dislike Luffy. But yeah, that's the only opinionated thing I'm going to throw in there, just to let you guys know. But I'm trying to be as objective and non-biased as possible. So Luffy, his goal is to become the Pirate King. And during what was the Archipelago arc, Luffy told he told Usopp, one of his crew members, to shut up when he was asking about he was asking Rayleigh about where the One Piece was, like if Rayleigh knew where the One Piece was and stuff like that. And Luffy is the type of character who he doesn't want his journey spoiled. Yes, his goal is to become the Pirate King, but he don't want no shortcuts to it. He want to enjoy his journey while he goes to search for the Pirate King. To search for the One Piece in order to become the Pirate King, because becoming the Pirate King and searching for and finding the One Piece, those are his two goals. Technically, it's kind of one and the same, because if you find the One Piece, you become the Pirate King. Now, that's cool. He has a goal. But a lot of people criticize characters like Ichigo for so-called not having a goal. Just because a character states their goal doesn't by default make them better than a character who may not bring up their goal that much. But anyways, Naruto is the same. He has a goal as well, to become the Hokage. However, Naruto's has more depth, because Naruto, He's not just laser focused on becoming Hokage. He actually believes that he's not worthy of becoming Hokage unless he does certain things, like bring Sasuke back to the village. He even says, "How could I ever become Hokage if I can't even save one friend?" So he has more depth. He sees the title as the title of Hokage. He doesn't see himself as being worthy of that during certain points of the story, and he challenges himself to achieve certain things before he can even uh, feel like he actually deserves that title. Whereas Luffy, he just wants to find the One Piece and become the Pirate King. Now, of course, he doesn't want his journey spoiled, but like I said, I think Naruto's is better and has more depth. And I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. But like I said, Naruto doesn't see himself as worthy during certain points to get to that goal. Luffy, you don't have anything like that. Now, another thing with Naruto that makes him better than Luffy, it's two things actually. Well, actually, it's one thing: character development. I've had plenty of debates in the past with One Piece fans, and what they say is, anytime I bring up this point, they say, uh, character development. Luffy, they actually try to argue that Luffy has character development just because he changes the world around him. That is not character development, and that's not an argument. I don't care what you try to bring up. It's not an argument because look, changing the world around you is something that literally every main character in any show you can think of does, because the world revolves around the main character. That's why they're the main character, because they're the main focused on character in that world. So they are by default changing the other characters around them because the whole world revolves around the main character. That's not an argument for character development. If that was the case, then I could just say any main character in existence pretty much has character development, and that's not the case, because you have a lot of characters uh, who don't have character development. And a lot of One Piece fans, anytime I bring up this point, they try to bring up that point, which is, oh well, he changes the world around you. That's not character development. If you try to quote something from some type of writer, some type of famous author who made some type of book, that's not valuable evidence. That's not. I don't care about that, because anybody can make a book, and I don't care what their credentials are or how good they think they are at storytelling or whatever. Don't cite any books as evidence. And also, if you're going to try to bring up definitions and stuff, make sure you separate the words, because definitions such as, like, if you typed in character development, the definition of that, you're most likely going to get an answer from a book, rather than the actual definitions of the words character and development. See, look, search up the word character on Google, and what you're going to see is mental or moral qualities or traits distinctive to an individual. You'll see something along the lines of that. And the reason why that's important is because that's what characters are. Just like us in the real world, people say, just like Martin Luther King in his speech, he said he wanted to live in a world. Yeah, he had a dream about where he was living in a world where people wasn't judged by the color of their skin, but the context of their character. And of course, real life human beings, we're not characters. We're real life human beings, but we have characters. So when you're talking about characters, you're talking about someone's mentality, the mental and moral traits of someone. Luffy doesn't have a mentality, and the reason you need mentality, mentality applies to your mental mind. Luffy doesn't think, which by default makes him a drastically worse character than not just Naruto, but dang near any other character in fiction that has character development, because Luffy doesn't have any internal monologue. In order to display your character, since characteristics apply to the mental and moral traits, which comes from your mind, especially mental. Mental is dealing with your mind. Luffy doesn't have that. Luffy does not have a thought process that changes over time, or is capable of changing over time, because he doesn't think. And the reason I say changes over time is because if you look up the word development, it's going to say the process of being developed. But if you look up develop, it's going to say basically like the process of changing, or the process of growing over time, etc. And growth, what is growth? Growth is change. Growth is change. Just like when we talk about puberty, people say you start to develop during puberty. What does that mean? You start to change. Growth is change. You can't display that. Luffy has he has no way. He has nothing you can cite as being character development, because he doesn't have any mental or mental traits that actually changes over time that you can see, because Oda doesn't give him any character Oda doesn't give him any internal monologue, which makes him a drastically worse character. And let me just give you an example, because I actually had a great debate with someone else on YouTube. But just to sum it up, because that was a long debate, we was talking about Sakura, and he was trying to criticize Sakura for uh, supposedly intending to leave her or betray her comrades to go with Sasuke. And I cited internal monologue. This is why internal monologue is such a crucial aspect to characterization, and not just characterization, but to a story in general. Because I brought up Sakura. I mean, when I was talking about Sakura, I also used it. I brought up Light Yagami as well. But the thing is, certain characters, you can tell that they don't mean what they say by their internal monologue, because they can be thinking one thing, but they can say another thing. That's how you can tell if a character is lying. You can't do that with Luffy because he doesn't have any internal monologue. It's such terrible writing when it comes to Luffy's character. So, and also, just to throw in another example, like Yagami, we can see throughout plenty of times in the story that he's lying about certain things, just because you can tell what he's thinking in his head. But he's he's so good at acting and lying. Anytime he's lying, he makes himself seem legit, seem like that's exactly what he intends to do. But you don't go based off of what he actually says. You go based off of what he's thinking, because the internal monologue is way more valuable, and it tells you way more about the character than just regular dialogue. And Luffy doesn't have internal dialogue, which makes him such a bad main character. Now, let's go on, move on to the other characters. I've already established that Luffy is bad in terms of character development because he doesn't have any. Naruto, for example, let me just quickly go over that. Naruto does have character development. First off, he has internal monologue, which Luffy does not have. So you can tell what he's thinking over the course of the series, as well as having his own dialogue on top of that. Luffy just has regular dialogue. Naruto has regular dialogue and internal dialogue, which by default makes him it adds more to his character, and adds more depth to his character. Now, another thing, Naruto, actually, you can see his thought process change over time. You can see his maturity over time. Part 1 Naruto is nothing like Shippuden Naruto. You can tell how much more mature he got during Shippuden, and he reached his all-time peak of character development during the Pain arc. Whereas at the start of the series, he was someone who didn't take things that seriously. He was more goofy, less serious, less strategic, etc. In the Pain fight, he was the opposite of all those things. He was more serious, more tactical, more strategic, etc. You can just tell that by you can tell how different he got during the Pain arc, how much he changed throughout the series. Also, like I was talking about earlier with him saying he didn't feel like he was worthy of being Hokage. That's something that didn't come along until Shippuden. He didn't feel like he was worthy of being Hokage because he said, how could I become Hokage if I can't save a friend? Not only that, but also the thing with Nagato, and after he found out all that, he wanted to change the world for the better and bring about world peace. And he felt like he needed to do that before he even became Hokage as well. Luffy, he has nothing like that, where you can see a change in his mentality and thought process over time, because he doesn't have a mentality. Now, anyways, let's get into a little bit of other characters, and then we're going to move on to the next category. I know I've been going off on a tangent with this. So while Luffy is a terribly written character, strictly from a character development point of view, I'm not saying he's a unlikable character or anything like that. But for a series that's supposed to be mature and supposed to be a shonen, because most people like shonen, most people, mainly teenagers and adults, like shonen, as far as my experiences go. Maybe in Japan you have a little bit more younger kids, and I do know shonen means young boy in Japan, but I think shonen's main audience is a little bit more mature. And maturity makes a story better. So regardless of what the target audience is, maturity makes a series better. You're going to reach a better audience. I mean, well, One Piece is an exception because a lot of people like One Piece. They overlook all these problems. But for the most part, a story being mature is better from a quality standpoint, strictly due to the fact that people can enjoy it longer. Because I like Naruto when I was a kid too, but when you get older and you can enjoy a series more if it has more depth, which One Piece lack. Typically, shows that are more childish shows has less depth. Stuff like SpongeBob and stuff like that. So really, kiddie shows can't compare, or childish shows cannot compare to more mature shows. And One Piece is more on the childish side of things, whereas Naruto is more on the mature side of things. Just look at Luffy's character. He has no character development. That's a childish thing. That's something you'll usually only see in stuff like Disney Junior shows. But anyways, other characters in the story. I think Robin and Usopp are some of the few exceptions when it comes to One Piece. When it comes to character development, there are some of the few. There are some of the characters. Some of the few characters who actually have character development in One Piece. Nami has a little tad bit, but the rest of the cast, even the Straw Hats, not just the side characters, even the Straw Hats don't really have much character development. Zoro, for example, he stays the same throughout the entire story, just like Luffy. Unlike Luffy, though, Zoro actually has internal monologue, so maybe you can pinpoint a couple of moments where he kind of changed the way he was thinking in comparison to other moments. Yeah, that's fine, but overall, his character development is nothing compared to the side characters in Naruto or even the main cast in Naruto. But yeah, for the most part, he stays the same throughout the series. He acts the exact same and stays the exact same. Nami, there is slight moments where you can see that her character has changed a little bit. Robin and Usopp, they're some of the main, like I said, they're some of the few characters who actually have character development. And I'm not going to go fully into that right now because I already talked about Luffy. And like I said, the main character is always the most important. But let's get to Naruto. Pretty much all of Naruto's cast has amazing character development. Sakura, Sasuke, they're the main characters in Naruto. Sakura, well, Team 7. Team 7 in general. Naruto, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke. They're the main characters in Naruto. All of them have great character development, backstories and stuff like that. Just to briefly go over that stuff. Kakashi, he was more cocky and he was so stuck up and so laser focused on the rules and stuff like that. And Obito helped him realize and helped him develop when Kakashi, he basically told Kakashi that those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. And Kakashi adopted that mentality. He changed his whole mindset and mentality. That shows character development. Sasuke went from being a selfish guy who was laser focused on his goal of achieving vengeance that he even was he was even willing to throw away his friendships in order to achieve his goal. But by the end of the series, by the fourth grade Ninja War arc, he developed into a character who was a lot more selfless. As a matter of fact, completely selfless, and opposed to how he was previously in the series where he was selfish and only focused on getting vengeance. At the end of the story, he developed into a selfless character who became a hero and who wanted to bring about world peace, who saved the entire ninja world and was even willing to throw away his own happiness by becoming a character who ruled over the world, made sure. And it wasn't ruling over the world for his own selfish ideals like some people think. He was trying to rule over the world to create a more peaceful world and just to deal with any of the problems that may occur. And he was going to adopt that Itachi type thing where he was going to taking all the pain and be the hero from the shadows and do stuff from the shadows in order to protect the ninja world. Even if that meant becoming the enemy of the whole world and bearing the hatred of the entire world. Stuff like that. Sasuke, for example, way better developed than any other character in One Piece. Now that we talk about character development, let's move on to some of the other stuff. Number 2. So Naruto wins the character development category, of course. Number 2, world building. One Piece wins that just simply due to the fact that One Piece has a bigger world and they actually travel around the entire world of One Piece. That's one of the most appealing aspects to One Piece, and that's one of the things I think a lot of people like that got them interested in One Piece is because they're on a journey, and a lot of people like journey stories and adventure stories, and that's what One Piece actually does well. But like I said, when it comes to character development and characters in general, One Piece is extremely bad in comparison to other series, especially Naruto. And like I said, characterization and character development is more important. But yeah, One Piece wins in the world building category for the most part. Also, I think Naruto's world building is underrated. They don't just stay in the Hidden Leaf Village all the time like some people think. Or like some people try to say, they actually explored all the 5 great ninja nations. They explored some of the smaller ninja nations. They even explored the land of the samurai, the land of iron, and stuff like that. And in the movies, they even do a better job at exploring the world. But for the most part, they don't explore the world as much as One Piece, and they don't have as much. It's not that different as far as the places that they go in comparison to One Piece. So yeah, I'll give that point to One Piece. Number 3, I'll say emotion. Now, when it comes to emotion, the most emotional thing in this entire world is death. That's the most emotional. People get the most amount of emotion from death. That's one of the saddest things that can ever happen, if not the saddest thing that could ever happen to someone is losing someone that they love and care about. Naruto has way more deaths than One Piece. In fact, it took One Piece about 500 or so episodes to actually get deaths. to get the same amount of deaths that Naruto got in like the first 20 episodes of the series, the first arc of the series. Naruto had Zabuza and Haku die, and that was a very emotional. Those were both very emotional deaths, and even Zabuza got some character development before he died. Whereas One Piece, it took like 500 episodes, multiple arcs, just to get the same amount of deaths that Naruto got in the first arc. Ridiculous. And I'm not. If you count flashbacks, that's ridiculous because characters. First of all, if we just count the flashbacks, they'll both have. Well, Naruto will have way more anyways. But point being, it's more impactful when the deaths happen in the real time, in the current timeline, and it actually affects the characters that are currently living in the story. But anyways, yeah. So not only that, but Naruto also had plenty other well done, amazingly done deaths, very sad deaths throughout the series. The third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi's death, Asuma Sarutobi's death, Jiraiya's death, pretty much the saddest death in anime, and Neji's death, which is heavily criticized. For all you One Piece haters, Naruto haters who like to say, well, Neji's death was terrible or trash. By the way, I'm probably gonna make a whole another video about why you shouldn't be calling anything related to fiction trash. But anyways, people like to criticize Neji's death because he got killed by a wood style. They say he got killed by a piece of wood or a stick or whatever. No, he didn't get killed by a stick. He got killed by one of the most insanely most powerful jutsus in Naruto, which is wood style. Wood style is one of the most overpowered jutsus, or at least it was one of the most overpowered jutsus in Naruto before they start doing the stuff with the tail beast and all that. Like, there's more powerful jutsus is my point. But anyways, wood style is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it's a powerful technique in Naruto. It's infused with chakra, and it was being wielded by Obito Uchiha. So, of course, it's going to be strong enough to kill somebody. Now, Neji, they say it ruined his character. No. He already had his... Oh, another thing. Let's get into the... I'm just going to quickly mention this about the side characters. Some people say that the side characters in Naruto got done dirty in Shippuden. No. The thing is, most of their character development peaked in part 1. Most of the side characters in Naruto had their peak character development in part 1, which is actually smart because Kishimoto, he focused more on Naruto and Sasuke in Shippuden because guess what? He saved, he gave them, he basically postponed the bulk of their character development. Not that Naruto and Sasuke didn't get character development in part 1 because they actually did, but he saved a lot of the character development that they could have potentially had, and he extended all of that until Shippuden. Whereas a lot of the side characters in Naruto, he gave them the most amount of character development they could ever possibly get in part 1. So in Shippuden, when Shippuden came around, they had all already reached their peak of character development. But as far as Neji is concerned, he reached his peak of character development in the Chunin exams. After he was battling, when he was battling against Naruto, he had this whole mentality where he thought that people were bounded by their destiny and they couldn't change their destiny. At the end of that arc, he ended up realizing what Naruto was talking about, that people can't change their destiny because Naruto, he said he failed the academy exam like 3 times and he still made it as far as he did, and now he can make all these shadow clones and etc. That gave Neji hope and stuff like that he can change his own destiny, which he did because originally his destiny was to protect the Branch family. But originally he was supposed to be it was his destiny to do that regardless of his own free will, regardless of what he wanted to do. But he showed when he died that his destiny, that whole destiny stuff he was talking about was actually wrong because he gave up his life via his own free will in the 4th grade Ninja War arc. Nobody told him to do it. The little mark on his forehead wasn't forcing him to do it or anything like that. He did it of his own free will because he cared about and loved Hinata and Naruto. And also, like I said, just to further debunk the point that he was never bounded by destiny, he did that to protect Naruto mainly, as well as Hinata as well. But Hinata was trying to protect Naruto herself. Point being, he did that to protect both of them. And Naruto, of course, is not a member of the branch. I mean, not a member of the main family, the Hyuga clan. If I said branch family earlier, you guys know I was referring to the main branch that Neji has to protect. But anyways, yeah. He showed his own free will. Whereas One Piece, in comparison, the only 2 deaths that we've had in the entire story of One Piece that have happened in the current timeline has been Ace and Whitebeard. And this is a story that has 900 plus chapters and 900 plus episodes, and they only have 2 deaths that actually happen in the current timeline, affecting the characters in the current timeline, etc. whereas Naruto has had that many deaths in the first arc. So Naruto, just from an emotional standpoint, like I said, one of the most emotional things you can have happen to you is losing someone you care about. Naruto has way more of that than One Piece does. And as far as the two deaths that One Piece does have, I think Ace's death was very, very badly executed, and it's actually way worse than even the most poorly executed death in Naruto, which a lot of people claim is the Neji death, which I don't even think was badly done at all. And like I said, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I already pointed out why Neji's death didn't actually ruin his character development, and it actually made sense, at least because like I said, he loved Naruto and Hinata and stuff like that. Whereas Ace's death, it actually makes no sense because Ace, he's supposed to be before, when we seen him in the series, he was portrayed as a character who loved his brother Luffy, and whose desire was to protect Luffy. Yet he put Luffy in danger by extending that war that was going on. The whole point of the war was to go get Ace, and Luffy and everybody who helped Luffy put so much time and energy and effort into going to save Ace's life. And when they finally got him, what did this guy do? He ignored all of their hard work and everything that they put into trying to bring him back and trying to save his life. He ignored all of that just because Kainu insulted him. Well, technically he insulted Whitebeard, but still, he threw all of that away just for an insult. So you're telling me a character who's supposed to love it, who's portrayed as a character who's supposed to be loving to his brother and a selfless character, you're telling me that just one insult caused him to throw away the hard work of all the people who are trying to save his life. Incredibly stupid, incredibly selfish, and it actually destroyed Ace's character. And also, just to throw in another thing, he's supposed to be a lot smarter than that too. I mean, he was literally the second in command of the Whitebeard Pirates. He's supposed to be someone who knows how to put his emotions. Because if your vice captain is someone who lets their emotions get the best of them, why are they the vice captain? That doesn't make sense. Usually, people in power are supposed to be people who are able to separate their emotions from the things that they actually need to do. And what Ace actually needed to do in that moment was to go away and go away with Luffy, because it doesn't make sense that someone who's supposed to be so selfless, or who is portrayed as a selfless guy who loved his baby brother, it doesn't make sense why he would throw all of that away, all of his brother's hard work away, and not get on that ship and cause his brother the pain of seeing him die, which none of that needed to happen. That was all Ace's fault, and it was written extremely poorly, very badly executed death, and the fact that that's one of the only two deaths in One Piece makes it even worse, because one of your only two deaths was poorly executed. Terrible. Anyways, that's the emotion thing. And just to add a little bit more to the emotional moments, some One Piece fans will probably throw in, well, you don't need deaths to have emotion. Well, like I said, that's the thing that leads to the most emotion, is the main character, or characters in general, witnessing someone die throughout the series, throughout the actual timeline, because that's more impactful, because that's the timeline we're actually following, not flashbacks. Flashbacks are just used to elevate the characters or just add more detail and background to the characters. What's really important, what's the most important, is either how those flashbacks affect them, or mainly what's more important is what's actually going on in the current timeline. But also, if you want to bring up, there are other things besides deaths that are emotional. Some One Piece fans want to bring up the ship burning, the Sunny. I mean, not the Sunny, the Mary, when that burned down. That's a man-made object. You can't compare that to an actual death, because I don't care if the ship had a soul or not. What you guys are ignoring is the fact that the ship is a man-made object. It's not something that's comparable to a human character dying, because a human character is someone who's born, someone who has everything that who has traits and stuff like that and characteristics. Whereas a boat is just a man-made object. And if you want to try to say, oh, well, the boat had a soul or whatever, there's very few instances where you can see that the boat, okay, so the boat was fixing itself. Okay. Like, the point is, there's not, even if you want to argue that the boat was actually its own character, it's really not a character. The boat barely ever talked. Like, I think it talked like a couple of times. And then on top of that, it built itself. That's pretty much it. It's not the same thing as a human character who was actually born and not created by another human being, not man-made. Because things that are man-made are artificial in comparison to things that are born, those things have more value because those are actual human beings. Those are actual lives. They can actually feel pain. Can you guys prove to me that that the Mary actually felt pain when it died, when it was being burned down? No, I'm pretty sure you can't. Whereas the actual human characters in Naruto who actually died, they actually felt pain because they're human characters. They have human characteristics, unlike that boat. And also, one last thing I want to bring up um about the emotion. Talk no Jutsu. One Piece has not. One Piece doesn't come close to Talk no Jutsu in terms of emotion. Naruto, and that's another great thing that's overlooked about Naruto. Sometimes people try to use it to criticize Naruto, but no, Talk no Jutsu is amazing because it's Naruto's one of the few shonen series, or at least one of the first few, if not the only shonen series at first, or shall I say the first shonen series to do this, that actually has characters talk out their problems and attempt to stop the villain via negotiation. And actually makes sense because all these characters in Shonen, all of these main characters, I mean, a lot of these main characters, they're supposed to be portrayed as characters who are morally in the right, characters who are good, kind-hearted people. That's how a lot of these main characters are portrayed. Luffy, Goku, Asta, Deku, all of these characters are portrayed in that way. However, when it comes to fighting the main villain, a lot of them don't really show mercy. I mean, they're willing to beat the crap out of the main villain. They might not necessarily want to kill the main villain, but they're willing to beat the crap out of the main villain as opposed to trying to talk things out first, which is what Naruto does. Naruto, when he sees that opportunity, he will not hold back when it comes to trying to negotiate with these villains, and it actually makes him better than all these other main characters from a moral standpoint, because you can see that Naruto is so kind-hearted that he's willing to just stop and talk, to try to figure out what's going on with these people and try to relate to them, relate to their pain and why they're doing certain things that they're doing. And Talk no Jutsu, just some of the most heartfelt, emotional conversations you can ever see in any anime. And or you can never, shall I say, you could ever hear in any anime. And yeah, those emotional speeches are way better than any speeches in One Piece. The speeches that Naruto gave to Gaara, to Sasuke, and that wasn't really just a speech, that was a whole conversation. Even Sasuke had a moment where he was reflecting on his past, and those type of speeches and dialogue are way better than any type of dialogue you will ever see in One Piece. And I'm not exaggerating, that's just fact. Now let's move on to the next category. So I already talked about characters, world building, emotion. Those are some of the most important categories. Let's talk about some of the, sides. Well, actually, here's another category I'm going to throw in there that I didn't mention earlier. Villains. I touched on this just a couple of seconds ago. Naruto, in terms of villains, Naruto actually, he's capable of relating to these villains, unlike Luffy. Because Luffy is not really capable of relating to all the villains he fight, because a lot of villains that are in One Piece are just the traditional shonen villains where, oh, I just want power, and I want to be the best, yada, 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 yada. That's the type of villains you have in One Piece, for the most part. Those are the type of villains in One Piece where they're just evil for the sake of being evil. They're just doing bad things just for the sake of being evil, or just for some superficial reason, like they want to be the strongest. For a lot of villains in One Piece, you never really get an explanation as to why they became evil in the first place, or why they want to be, why they're doing these evil things in the first place. And even if they do give like an explanation that, oh, it's just because they want to be the best or they want to be a pirate king, it pales in comparison to any relatable explanation of why someone would be evil, such as Pain, for example. The reason he was doing the things he was doing is because he grew up in a time where he grew up in a war-stricken world where he's seen the effects of war, and he's seen the effects of poverty and what actually happens to war, and he didn't like that. He wanted to create a peaceful world, but he was going about it in an evil way. Which, since he has that evil element that he was going about it in an evil way and doing evil acts, it still makes him a great antagonist and a great villain. However, he has that sense of relatability to him that the reason he's doing these things is actually from a morally right or a good point of view, that he wants to bring about a peaceful world. He just sees the way of going about that. He sees his only way of going about that in an evil way. Now, that's not just Pain. You also have villains like Madara who are like that. Madara, Pain, Obito, they all fall into that same category. Madara, for example, the best villain in all of fiction. He went from a villain, he went from someone who, he was a kind-hearted kid and all that, but he's seen basically all his brothers die in battle during the wars of the past, in the era of the War and States period, and etc. And then he wanted to save the rest of his clan. Once he seen the Senju clan was pretty much going to take over the village, and he knew that his clan was going to be in jeopardy, he wanted to, take over. I mean, he wanted to protect his clan because he couldn't save his brothers. But the whole reason he became evil in the first place is because, I mean, not necessarily evil, but he had an evil way of going about stuff. Is because, and which that still makes him a great villain because he does evil things. He actually kills people and he has an evil way of going about stuff. But the whole reason behind his goal is because he thought, him and Obito, they both thought that the world was, that there will always be fighting in the world. There will never be true peace in the world. And they wanted to achieve true peace because they seen how evil the world could get. And they start to see how the world was becoming a dark pit of hell. And, yeah, so they wanted to bring about a peaceful world because they thought all the fighting and stuff was going to continue forever. So all of their motivations and stuff, it makes sense in Naruto. Whereas villains like Blackbeard, they're just evil for the sake of being evil. Their only justification for being evil is just to actually, this is kind of headcanon from that I heard from fans, but they say, well, Blackbeard he does what he does just to because he want to be the king of the pirates or whatever. Actually, that explanation wasn't even given in the story. Only thing that is to Blackbeard's he's a poorly written villain for one. There's a lot of like any type of villain that's just evil for the sake of being evil is ridiculously poorly written. But Blackbeard, this guy literally out of nowhere, out of the blue. This is in his flashback, by the way. A flashback is supposed to give more detail and more depth to a character. But did it do that for Blackbeard? No. All it did was answer a question. They could have just answered that question in the story. They didn't even have to have a flashback of it. But, because literally, it added nothing to his character. Only thing that was explained was, one day, randomly, out of the blue, he just killed one of his crew members to take their devil fruit. That's really all there is to his character, and it's pathetic. And if you want to try to bring up the argument, well, One Piece isn't done yet, we can get more development down the line. The fact that Naruto has had way better written villains in a way shorter amount of time, because Naruto is only 700 chapters, One Piece is 900 chapters. Naruto's had way better written villains in a way shorter amount of time than One Piece. And I'm talking about characters that weren't even introduced until Shippuden, like Nagato/Pain. He wasn't even introduced into the second part of Naruto/Shippuden. Blackbeard has been around since pre-time skip in One Piece, so there's no excuse. There's been 900 chapters. This guy's been around longer than how long Nagato's been around, and he's a way worse written character. He's an extremely poorly written character, whereas Nagato is a way better written character. Now let's move on to some of the other categories. Romance. This is something that One Piece severely lacks. Now it does have a couple of moments where, like it has a little bit sprinkles of romance here and there, but unlike Naruto, Naruto, unlike One Piece, Naruto actually possesses a romance, a story of romance that develops throughout the course of this story. You can see Naruto and Hinata's relationship develop. And also those heavily criticized filler arcs in Naruto. By the way, the reason I haven't mentioned filler in this video is because you shouldn't be using filler as an argument for why One Piece or Naruto is better. You should never use that, especially if you're comparing the two series, because the source material, that's the actual story. That's the more reliable story because it's the first thing that was made. It's the original source material for the anime. The anime is just an adaptation. So if you're talking about which story is better, which series is better, you always should refer to the manga. But if you want to talk about just strictly anime, then yeah, you can criticize filler. But filler in Naruto, actually, a lot of filler in Naruto are actually better than One Piece canon episodes because filler characters actually develop in Naruto, even in the filler arcs. And not just develop individually like Hinata did and several other characters, but even their relationships develop, like Naruto and Hinata's relationship develop, and that's the thing I was about to get into with the romance. However, only thing I'm gonna say about the filler regarding the romance in Naruto is that you can see a lot of relationship development in the fillers of Naruto. But I'm not gonna talk about fillers. Let's just talk about the main story. You can see Naruto actually. So when he first met Hinata, and I'm just gonna use Naruto and Hinata as an example. When he first met Hinata, and actually Sasuke and Sakura is a very great example as well. When Naruto first met Hinata, he viewed her as a weird character. You can see that in his internal monologue. He said Hinata's pretty weird and etc. However, towards the end of the tuning exams arc, after they had spent some time together, and after Naruto had seen how much Hinata was motivated by him and how hard Hinata was trying and all that, and how much she helped him out during the tuning exams, He started to notice how great of a person she was, and he started to like that. And he literally told her that towards the end of the tuning exam. He was like, Hinata, you're basically said you're pretty weird. And he just used some other words to describe her that are kind of negative words, but he summed it up by saying, but you know what? I actually like people like you. Yeah, he basically said you're pretty weird, quiet, gloomy, or whatever. He was saying stuff like that. But he said I actually like people like you. That's something that he didn't say at the start of the series. He didn't even think that at the start of the series. At the start of the series, he just thought she was a weirdo. But you can see that he actually started to develop feelings for her, and he actually started to like her at that point because he said, you know what? I actually like people like you, implying that he actually likes Hinata. And also, for another example, Sasuke and Sakura. At the start of the series, Sasuke said, Sakura, you're annoying. When she was talking about Naruto and stuff. And you can see by the time you got to the tuning exams, you can see Sasuke actually started to develop feelings for Sakura. He literally, his whole curse mark, which that was a symbol of his anger and stuff like that. And we got, like, he was, the madder he got, the more his curse mark grew and stuff like that. And all of that receded when Sakura hugged him. All of that anger from the curse, not just that, all of his anger and stuff from the curse mark, his curse mark growing, his curse mark receded and his anger receded when Sakura hugged him. What does that mean? It meant Sakura put him at ease. It meant that he cared so much about Sakura that the sight of her crying calmed him down. It stopped him from being angry. It shows how much how much he grew into loving Sakura. And even in Shippuden, Naruto and Hinata, you got to see more of that. And yeah, you just got to see more of their relationship develop throughout Shippuden. One Piece, you don't. All of the Straw Hats have been on a boat, traveling around the entire world for years together, and yet you still don't have any romantic relationship development between them. It doesn't make sense that all of these single male and female pirates can go on an adventure this long and none of them develop feelings for each other. Now, the only way you can try to make sense of that is just by saying they're all asexual, which people say is basically meaning they're anti-sexual, which means they don't have any sexual desire. But that's directly contradicted by Sanji, because he's the opposite of that. I mean, he likes females. I mean, he's really the only character who's really that heavily into that stuff. But still, you telling me characters like Nami and Robin, they still haven't developed romantic interest with these people who are around the same age as them, who are the opposite sex of them, and who has been traveling around the world for years with them? You telling me they never develop any romantic interest? Doesn't make sense. And no matter what excuse you use, you just can't deny the fact that Naruto has better romance. And having romance in general is something that enhances and elevates the story as well. Now let's move on to comedy. Comedy is the most subjective category, but what I'll say about comedy is Naruto is still better. Whereas by the way, Naruto, every category that I just talked about, Naruto wins with the exception of world building. Comedy. Like I said, this is the most subjective category, but for the most part, Naruto is more genuinely funny as a character than any of the stuff in One Piece. Whereas Luffy, the only reason people think he's funny because how stupid he is. He's kind of like Goku. Whereas Naruto, he's just genuinely funny. Like this guy, like when he was making fun of Kakashi, when Kakashi said, I forgot, it was something about his hair. He was like, oh yeah, the only weird thing here is your haircut, etc. And yeah, I just think Naruto has a lot more funny moments. Moments that are funny enough for mature audiences to enjoy as well as kids. Whereas One Piece is a lot more childish, a lot more on the childish side of things. And when it comes to his comedy, it really doesn't even make that much sense the majority of the time. But anyways, that's just a brief category. What else did I say I was going to talk about? Dang it. I think I forgot some of the categories. I really should have wrote the categories down at least. Well, just a brief thing that came to mind. The plot twists in Naruto are better. Because, like, for example, the plot twist with Itachi, that changed Sasuke's whole. It didn't change Sasuke's goal because his goal was still to avenge his clan, but it gave the story a lot. It gave the story a lot more mileage. Like that whole thing, the Itachi reveal, that was pretty much like early Shippuden, almost at the halfway point of Shippuden. So while it didn't immediately change Sasuke's character and his goal of wanting to achieve vengeance, it completely changed the direction of the story because most people thought, oh, Sasuke was going to go back to the village. And by the way, critiquing Sasuke based off the fact that he didn't go back to the village is stupid because the whole point of his character was he was an avenger. Just because he found out the truth about Itachi, why would he throw away his whole goal of avenging his clan, who he literally watched get murdered before his eyes? It only makes sense to his character that he would want to still pursue vengeance and avenge his family as well as his older brother, who were pretty much all used and killed by the entire village. So him wanting to destroy the village made sense. But anyways, as if you want to throw in the argument, well, he was gonna kill people who had nothing to do with the Uchiha clan massacre. Well, guess what? The Hidden Leaf Village, they killed young Uchiha kids and babies and stuff who had nothing to do with the plan, the planned coup d'état. So it's still vengeance. The Hidden Leaf Village killed his family members who had nothing to do with planning out what was going on with that coup d'état, and yeah, so it makes sense that in order to get vengeance, he's gonna do the same thing. He's gonna kill people in the village who caused his family to get massacred, as well as the people who may not have had anything to do with it. It just makes sense. Now, this is getting to be a long video. The last thing I'll talk about, since I forgot about those other two categories I was going to talk about, is the fights. And by the way, no matter what category I may have forgot about, just know Naruto is better. When it comes to Naruto is better in literally every category aside from world building. And I'm not saying Naruto is perfect or anything, because no story is perfect, and that's something that One Piece fans need to understand. There's no such thing as a perfect story. There's always going to be some type of problems, some type of aspects that are going to turn people off, that people aren't going to like. And like I said, I didn't say this, but I'll say this now. Nothing is for everybody. There's not going to be a single show on this planet that everyone's going to enjoy. There's always going to be differences in opinions, and there's always going to be problems that people have. And a lot of the times, some of those problems may be valid. Point being, no story is perfect. And that's not just that's in regards to every story, Naruto and One Piece included. Now, anyways, let me get to this last category: fights. Now, fights are a big part of these shonen manga, and Naruto does them better. Not just in terms of the animation quality, but I'm not talking about the anime. Not just in terms of choreography or just the way the fights look in hand-to-hand combat. Naruto's better in that regard as well because One Piece, especially when it comes to the main character, Luffy is just punching. That's pretty much what he does in all his fights. He does do certain techniques where he stretches out his body and stuff like that. But for the most part, these One Piece fights turns into these, like, just punch-out battles a lot. Just like how stuff is in JoJo's where they just constantly punching each other. Naruto has way better choreography, way more unique stuff that happens in these fights, and etc. Whereas Naruto, you'll see stuff like taijutsu utilized in fights. You'll see genjutsu utilized in fights. You'll see strategy utilized in fights. One Piece, you barely get any of that. By the way, taijutsu is just basically hand-to-hand combat martial arts. Genjutsu is like manipulating someone's mind. It's essentially mind manipulation and stuff like that. Making someone see illusions and stuff. And then, you also have strategy. And you have ninjutsu as well, which is basically characters utilizing like elemental stuff like that and stuff like that. Whereas One Piece, all you have is like just, for the most part, it usually turns out into these characters just having these big old drawn out fights, where for the most part, usually none of the fights in One Piece has strategy. Like the only fight I can think of that actually has some strategy is the Crocodile versus Luffy fight. And maybe some of the fights that Nami be in, because Nami actually has to utilize strategy. But most of them, the majority of the other fights in One Piece just turns into these battles of whoever has the most power wins. There's barely any strategy ever involved in these fights. And another thing, as far as power goes, the power system in One Piece is a lot worse because Naruto characters actually have to train to learn, utilize different jutsu and stuff like that. Whereas One Piece characters, all they have to do is eat a freaking fruit and they get power. And I'm not trying to hear, well, if they can train too and get more powers and blah, blah, blah. No. They eat, they can train to get a little bit stronger with their fruit or get stronger involving their fruit. But when it comes to Luffy, they train to, point being, they have hockey too. Luffy trained with that. But as far, a lot of characters in One Piece don't even have hockey. Only really the top tier characters have hockey. The majority of the other characters don't have hockey. They either utilize weapons like Zoro and Nami, or they utilize devil fruits. And One Piece, when it comes to these devil fruits, anybody can eat a devil fruit and get power. Whereas Naruto, you can't just not anybody can just become a ninja. You actually have to learn how to control your chakra and stuff. So Naruto, there's more of a skill curve. There's more of an incentive to train, and the powers that these characters actually achieves ends up feeling more earned in Naruto because they all of the characters have to train to learn their abilities. Even if you want to, oh yeah, as far as the here's one thing, a quick thing I want to mention. Characters, there's this video on the internet called "Self-Made Hypocrite" or something like that. When it comes to Naruto, I think it's titled "Naruto the Self-Made Hypocrite." He basically tries to say Naruto isn't an underdog just because he had the nine tails and blah blah blah. The nine tails actually does make Naruto an underdog. Just because Naruto didn't have, because this guy tries to say Rock Lee's more of an underdog than Naruto. No, yeah, Rock Lee he didn't have the ability to use ninjutsu and stuff like that. But what is an underdog? What an underdog is someone who has to overcome adversities and disadvantages and stuff like that. Having the nine tails is a huge disadvantage. Not just anybody can learn how to control that. And the nine tails is actually, it was a threat to Naruto's life. Naruto could have died several times. The nine tails was attempting to take over Naruto's body at several times in the story. So the fact that Naruto had to learn how to overcome that and learn how to gain the access to the nine tails power, and he had to befriend the nine tails and all that, that was a huge disadvantage he had at the start of the series that he had to work to overcome. As well as the fact that he was pretty much shunned and ostracized by his whole village and ignored and treated like crap by his whole village. He was pretty much hated by his whole village. And he had to overcome that out of adversity. He had to get the village to accept him. He had to form his relationships and bonds with his friends. And he had to get people to accept him. That's an underdog story from two aspects. He's an underdog in the aspect of him having to overcome the fact that he was hated by his entire village, and in the fact that he had to learn how to control the nine tails and overcome that huge disadvantage that the nine tails could take over at any moment. So Naruto was definitely an underdog. But anyways, let's get back to this power stuff. I mean the fights. So I already explained why Naruto is better when it comes to strategic elements in their fights, and also Naruto is way more strategic than Luffy. Like I said, Luffy's only had that one moment with Crocodile. Naruto has displayed that not only in a pain fight, but the Kaguya fight, etc. But anyways, point being, One Piece fights they tend on in general, more fights in the most amount of fights in One Piece are focused on power, whereas Naruto, it's actually a lot of trickery involving ninjutsu and stuff like that involved. And even I can even mention a Kiba fight. You can say, well, Naruto did it accidentally. No, he has to. There's certain things. There's certain strategies involved in Naruto fights. Shikamaru is known for being the strategies. But anyways, what I was saying was the choreography in one. I mean, as far as the Naruto fights are a lot better. You have a lot more dynamics at play, such as mind control, slash hypnosis, strategy, which only a few One Piece fights actually have strategy. And then you also have the martial arts aspect. Whereas One Piece is mainly, especially when it comes to the main character, Luffy, he's pretty much always just fighting with brute strength and trying to overcome his characters via power. And also another thing, when Luffy barely ever loses any fights. Like, barely ever. Whereas Naruto lost, first of all, he lost one of the most important fights in the story, which actually moved the story forward and progressed the plot, which was the Sasuke fight. Off the top of my head, what else fights have he lost? I can't think of any off the top of my head. But point being, Naruto has a lot more strategy and it's a lot better when it comes to choreography. Also, it's a lot better when it comes to the fights. It's a lot better when it comes to setup. Not only setup, but build up. Naruto versus Sasuke Part 1, that was built throughout the entirety of Part 1. There was moments where Naruto and Sasuke both said that they wanted to fight each other, but you also saw their relationship develop from being characters who went from hating each other. And even Sasuke said when he sacrificed himself against Haku, he said, "Naruto, I always hated you." But you can tell he would throughout the series that changed. He started to grow a brotherly bond with Naruto, and even at the end of Shippuden, he said that he started to see Naruto as a brother. And Naruto even said in Shippuden that Sasuke's he feels like Sasuke is his brother. But you can see their relationship develop over time. And also, there's a lot of One Piece fans who try to, not just One Piece fans, but Naruto haters in general, try to say Naruto is a so-called homo story. I'm not going to use the full word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They try to say Naruto's a homo story because Sasuke had to because Sasuke because Naruto was following Sasuke and trying to bring him back to the village. But the reason he was doing that is because Sasuke was like a brother to him, and he never had a bond like that. And he actually said that in his fight, where Sasuke asked him, he was like, the first fight in part 1, Sasuke asked him, "Why would you go this far for me?" And he's like, "Because this is the first time I ever had a bond like this." And he even told Sasuke, he says, "When I'm with you, I feel like this is what it's like. This is what it's like to have a brother." But anyways, yeah, Naruto versus Sasuke part 1, it was built throughout all of part 1. And the second fight, Naruto versus Sasuke part 2, was built throughout all of Shippuden. You don't have a single fight in One Piece that has as much build up as Naruto versus Sasuke. Like the first fight, like I said, it had about maybe 200 or so chapters of build up. And the second fight had roughly 500 chapters of build up. Altogether, you can say the final fight had about 690 something chapters of build up, almost 700 chapters to build up, because they was building the whole rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke. They was building that fight and that rivalry up since some of the earliest chapters in Naruto. So yeah, in terms of build up, Naruto is better, and the motion Naruto is better because you can see the relationships develop. Naruto actually has relationships that he forms with his rivals or the enemies that he fight. And you know, like I said, Talk no Jutsu plays into that as well. But One Piece, there's not a character in One Piece that Luffy has had a long extended build up with that he's actually had a fight with. And I'm talking about a full fight. I'm not talking about what happened with Sanji when Sanji just kicked him out. I'm talking about like a full blown fight with someone who's had with a rivalry that's been building since like hundreds of chapters. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the categories I can remember off the top of my head. Naruto's better in every category aside from world building, and Naruto's better than One Piece from a non-biased, objective point of view. Naruto's better than One Piece. That's how I see it, anyways. I understand that there's still going to be some subjectivity in it, but overall, I tried to be as non-biased as possible. Okay, so this is the very last thing I'm going to add to this video. So there's 3 things I forgot to talk about. I mean, 3 things I forgot to mention or say. The first thing is, while Naruto's popularity in terms of Google Trends has been going down, it's been declining ever since its peak. But in particular, since the end in 2014, the popularity has been going down via Google Trends. It's been declining. And also, the reason I'm using Google Trends as evidence is because a lot of One Piece fans tried to do the same thing. But also, if you guys go to my video that I'm going to link in the description, talking about the popularity, why One Piece is not the most popular. If you see stuff like, I also use Crunchyroll as evidence, and it shows that Naruto is the most popular anime worldwide on Crunchyroll. But some One Piece fans like to use Google Trends, so I use Google Trends and I compare Naruto to One Piece. And over the past 15 years, Naruto has had a way higher peak of Google Trends than One Piece worldwide. But also, what I forgot to mention is One Piece has never surpassed Naruto in terms of worldwide popularity, at least if you're going off of Google Trends. Yes, they are super close, and it may look like One Piece actually surpassed it, but it didn't. You can actually check the information yourself. Go from 2004 to currently, you'll see that One Piece never even surpassed Naruto. You can even do it in the past 12 months or whatever. Point being, in terms of worldwide popularity, One Piece has never passed Naruto. Now, it is getting close, but it's never passed Naruto. And Naruto still has a way higher peak. Also, there's 2 categories that I mentioned in the video that I forgot to mention when I forgot to get to. One of them is pacing and the other one is art. In terms of art, it's extremely subjective, but I think Naruto is objectively, if you try to be as non-biased as possible, Naruto is objectively better in terms of artwork. I might have a video in the description, might not, but there's a video where this guy is talking about the artwork of Naruto, and he does a great job at breaking down how fantastic Kishimoto is as an artist. He's not just above One Piece, but above a lot of artists when it comes to like how unique he does his style in terms of the cover pages and stuff like that. Now, and also in terms of character designs, One Piece is terrible, and with a lot of their character designs, and they just look very unnatural. Like even the females, a lot of the females are super tall. They got these very skinny, thin waists that no real human, no real woman on this planet actually got. Not unless you maybe some people got plastic surgery. But the point is, the characters look very unrealistic in One Piece in comparison to Naruto, which has a way better, more realistic art style. And then the pacing, Naruto's, I just think this is objective that Naruto's better because Naruto, well, One Piece, especially not just the anime but the manga as well, it's very slow paced at points, and it drags on a lot. And also, one last thing I want to mention: the repetition in One Piece. One Piece is way more repetitive than Naruto. You have multiple arcs in One Piece. I'm not saying every arc, but the vast majority of arcs in One Piece uh, follows the same format where the Straw Hats go to an island. Most likely they get split up or they meet. They always tend to meet a friend on the island or somebody who they want to save after they find out the island is being terrorized by a villain or being controlled by a villain. And then what happens? The Straw Hats end up saving the day, and then they end up going to the next island and doing the same thing. This process repeats in One Piece. This formula repeats in One Piece throughout the majority of the arc, throughout the majority of the story, I mean. Whereas Naruto, every arc is different for the most part. First arc is the Land of Waves arc. It's a mission arc, a bodyguard mission, where they go to another country on a bodyguard mission to guard a bridge builder, and they end up fighting some villains. Next arc, the tuning exams arc. It's an exam arc. They're taking a test, and it also turns into a tournament towards the end of it, and then the tournament ends up turning into like a mini war afterwards. Next arc, it's like a mini arc where Itachi comes to the village and is more so focused on Itachi and Sasuke, but for the most part, it's just the Akatsuki mini introduction and them trying to get Naruto, supposedly trying to capture Naruto, and then Sasuke coming to save the day along with Jiraiya. The next arc, Search for Tsunade arc, is they're searching for the next Hokage. So Naruto and Jiraiya go out of the village and search for the next Hokage. Next arc is the Sasuke retrieval arc. Naruto's comrade, his friend, someone who he views as a brother, leaves the village, and Naruto and his friends go to save him, or try to save him. One Piece, there's very few arcs that are different. Naruto, literally every one of those arcs are different, and the same is true in Shippuden as well. Just to briefly go over some of the Shippuden arcs, you had the Kazekage rescue arc. Granted, it's kind of similar to the Sasuke rescue arc, but it's different in terms of execution. But yeah, they go to rescue the Kazekage after the Akatsuki attacked the hidden sand village, which is a different thing because that's something that didn't happen in the Sasuke retrieval arc. But anyways, next arc they go to look for Sasuke, try to bring him back. Next arc is the Akatsuki attack. Hidan and Kakuzu attacking and stuff like that. So on and so forth. Next arc, Sasuke goes after Itachi to try to get vengeance. Next arc is the infiltration arc where Jiraiya infiltrates the hidden rain village and tries to take out Pain. Next arc, Pain is a Pain invasion arc. Someone comes and invades Pain's Naruto's home. And that's another thing with One Piece. One Piece don't actually, another great thing about Naruto is Naruto spends a lot of time at Hidden Leaf Village. We know it's his home, so it feels more impactful when Naruto's home is being destroyed and when there's problems there. Like it's a better feeling for Naruto. Like he always has somewhere to return to, which makes it better from an emotional standpoint because we have more of an emotional connection with the Hidden Leaf Village than any island in One Piece because it's so much weight there, so much history there. Naruto spends so much time there, it actually feels like his home, whereas One Piece has nothing like that. And that's another advantage for Naruto. And when Naruto's home is getting destroyed, you feel that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. One Piece is more repetitive than Naruto. It has worse pacing than Naruto. It has worse art than Naruto. And I already broke down, basically Naruto wins in every category. Not basically, it does win in every category. If you try to look at this as objectively and non-biased as possible, Naruto beats One Piece in every category aside from world building. And even if you want to talk about, I don't think I heard it's not fair to talk about animation because the animators are working hard and certain problems go on. But even if you want to talk about like just how the way the story look, in terms of the anime, Naruto tends to have better looking fights and stuff like that. But like I said, I don't want to throw that in there because it's kind of. I like I said, I usually talk about the main story. But thanks you guys for watching the video. And this is it. Thank you. This is it. I know it was a long one, but thanks for watching. And if you made it to the end, comment made it to the end with the W. So I know you made it to the end. Peace out.